everybody. Welcome to Opening the Mic. This is a brand new podcast following two aspiring comedians on our journey from open micers to real deal comedians. I'm Travis Stevenson.
And I'm John Murphy, and we just thought the world needed another podcast, you know? There's not enough of them out there.
Couldn't hurt.
Enough people aren't doing podcasts, so we thought we'd throw our hat in the ring.
What do you want this podcast to be about?
I want to, document like what goes on in our lives, because we're brand new to this. I mean, we've been doing this, 2 months?
Yeah, about 2 months.
2 months. Few open mics, no like real spots or anything like that. What real comics would call a spot. I think I want to see what goes on in our world as we progress, like the ins and outs, kind of like, you know, the stuff that, for me personally, when I first found out I was going to do an open mic, I was super nervous about how the whole thing played out. Like what to expect when you walk in the room. Like, do you have to show up early? And it's silly little shit that like I let freak me out for no reason. And I'd like to, as we learn those things, put it out there so other people aren't as freaked out, because I learn a lot from podcasts. And that's one of the first things I did was look and see if there was a podcast that was talking about what it was like to start comedy for the first time. And, you know, what do you do? What are the steps you go through? And there wasn't one. So figure we'll make one. What about you?
That's kind of what I want to do with this podcast as well. It's because we've wanted to do comedy our whole lives. We thought it was something cool, but when you get older, you know, with all the negativity or insecurity, you're like, man, maybe it's like singing or being in a band. I have to be born with talent. Maybe you have to be born special to do that.
Yeah.
And then an opportunity comes along for us to do open mics, and we're like, you know what, fuck it, let's try it.
Yep.
And we go to do it, and the more we do it and the better we've gotten in this short amount of time, we realize, you know, maybe it's not talent that you're born with. Maybe there's a few tips and tricks and there's some structure along the way. And we thought, well, we weren't able to find anything about it, so let's talk about it. Let's demystify what stand-up comedy is, because it's honestly been one of the favorite things that I've ever done. It's been the coolest
100%.
new hobby that I've ever dove into.
And we've got our fair share of those hobbies.
And I fucking tell everybody that I meet. I'm like, they find out, they're like, hey, you did stand-up? I'm like, yeah, and you should too. Just give it a try,
absolutely.
even if you're not funny. Just get up there and do it.
And that's like, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but growing up, I'm sure you as well. I know because we grew up together. But
we should probably touch on that. Basically, we are childhood best friends.
Yep. From 11, 12, something like that. Middle school.
I had pubes, so I don't know if it was childhood best friends. We were adolescent best friends.
He did have pubes. I confirmed it like second day. He was a slut.
Real easy.
The thing we bonded over, I think most of anything, was comedy. Like, we didn't know that that's what it was at the time, but jokes is what like made us become best friends. It was because we made each other laugh, I think.
Yeah, we'd be sitting around in gym class and we'd be holding court, like telling the latest Jeff Foxworthy CD or whatever.
Yep.
Or, you know, Blue Collar Comedy had came out that was big, and we could fucking recite every word.
Oh, yeah. And that's what we did for like years, was just stand around and tell each other the jokes that we already knew, because we'd watched that shit 1,000 fucking times. But
and that's what was like bonding too, is because we'd see other people fuck it up. I'm like, no, you didn't get the timing right.
You got to pause here, because that's what makes it funny. And we didn't know it.
He stepped on his punchline. God damn it, Marcus.
We were working on our stand-up then. I mean, we didn't know that's what we were doing, but like, that's all we ever talked about, it seemed like. Music, we talked a lot about music. And stand up, that was like our shit, man. That was especially anytime there was a new special that would come out, we would just come back to school the next day after we both watched it and just recite it back and forth. And it's jokes we'd already laughed at home by ourselves, but we still made each other laugh with it, which is the thing that I think blows my mind the most about doing stand up that I didn't realize beforehand, is a joke can be funny twice.
Yeah.
Like, that fucking blows my mind.
I remember when I came up with my first like funny thing that I said, and like maybe made the teacher laugh or other kids laugh, and I'm like, oh, that was cool. And then I would try it again in like lunch or recess, and I was like, oh fuck, I'm workshopping jokes. And didn't even realize it. I was just like, oh, okay, this made Miss Taylor laugh. Let's see if it makes the kids laugh too.
Right. And
I'm like, oh, let me try a different thing here. Maybe let me try a different punchline.
And the whole time you were just punching up jokes for stand up and had no idea. And then What was the turning point? What was the key switch when you decided you were going to go on stage and do stand up?
Okay, so for me, like, life beats you down a little bit, and you know, you think you're good at something, it'll let you know real quick, like, no, you got to be special. Because I was in a band in college, and the music was everything. I loved it. I just love creating and making things. And then I got, you know, in college, and you start playing music, and then you realize maybe we're not that good. Right. You know, like, we're trying really hard, but maybe we're not that good. So I thought the same thing about stand-up, because I've always had people tell me, you know, Trav, you're funny. You should be a comedian. I'm like, oh, fucking fuck off. Get out of here with that nonsense. And they keep telling you that. And it might as well be your grandmother telling you you're strong or you're handsome or whatever. It's some compliment that like, yeah, I'm funny to you. I'm funny at a barbecue.
Right.
But I'm like not funny enough to be on stage.
It's the same thing with music. Like, I mean, I was at those shows. Like I said, we've been friends forever, but you would get off and people would be like, man, that was really fucking good. Yeah, but it wasn't, Foo Fighters good.
Right.
We've always held this higher standard for everything we've done. It's like, if it's not the best we've ever seen, we're fucking pissed about it.
We're miserable to hang out with for that one reason, because it's like, if
that's really why we're best friends, because nobody else can fucking stand us.
Dude, if we go to do something, if we're not immediately good or can't become good, I don't want any part of it.
Exactly. I have to be the best I've ever seen at everything I've ever done, or I'm not doing it.
I'm not celebrating like mediocrity.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I can say funny things and make people laugh.
But you never felt like I'm not the guy who can be the best.
Right.
So I'm not even going to mess with it.
So my wife and I started a YouTube channel fixing up houses.
Right.
And it picked up some traction. We got 10, 12,000 subscribers, which is cool. It's not like we're going to be famous
it's
or
fucking
anything.
sick. It's awesome.
But it is cool. And I was like, we get a lot of comments about when we do funny things on there. And I'm like, oh, I've got a lot of funny ideas for bits, but I can't get there fast. I want to get there quick.
Right.
I don't want to just fucking,
beat around the bush
and be lame and be corny. I'm like, I need to figure out how to distill it down and get to the funny quick.
Yeah.
So I don't have to stress about it. So there's this comedy club that opens up in our small town where we live, and I was at a restaurant. I see a flyer for a stand-up comedy class.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I can use this to teach me how to write jokes for the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So I go there, we do the class, we get an assignment to write a joke, and they're like, the first day they tell you you have to make assumptions about people. So they're like, what do you think about me? And they call on me, the instructor.
These are strangers, right? Like
these are complete strangers.
Okay.
It's just me and like 6 other people and then the instructor. And he's like, all right, so we're going to call, and he's this dude from Boston, and he's like, hey, we're going to call, what we're going to do is we're going to make assumptions about other people. It's like, Travis, what do you think about me? And I was like, you look like the guy from The Sixth Sense if you grew up and you haven't been doing very well.
The kid?
Yeah.
He does look
He fucking does, right? Haley Joel Osment.
Haley Joel Osment,
And he goes, this isn't a roast. I was looking for like, you look like you do IT, or you work
make an assumption about me. You know what, you fucking piece of shit. You just went in on the teacher.
I was like, oh, I thought we were in a comedy class. I was like, oh, I need a joke about this guy. And he's like, no, I just need like a basic assumption about
something you can work
yeah.
with. Yeah.
So it comes around to me, and I'm like, oh, here they go. They're going to say like, oh, this guy looks gay, or this guy this. And like, they're going to hit me with all the things I'm insecure about.
Right.
Like, he looks like he spends too much time on his hair.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Thanks.
Really?
Or like, he looks like he's a youth pastor, and everybody laughs. And then that's the thing that they give me.
I remember you telling me that the first time you told me, and I was like, I don't see that at all for you.
No.
But apparently everyone else does.
Someone also said manager at Long John Silver's, which I'm like, that's fucking
See, now
spot
that,
on.
yeah, I could fucking get that.
I
one.
definitely look like I sell insurance, but somebody said youth pastor, and that was the thing that was given to me. So you have to take the assumption about you and break it, and that teaches you how to write a joke.
Right.
So the next class I come back, and I've got my joke written, and it's basically, people tell me I look like a youth pastor, some filler, blah, blah, blah. And like, I can't be because, I'm not allowed at church because of a restraining order.
Right.
Obviously there's a much bigger bit where it's like the punchlines are correct.
Which one day we need to do like the first bit that we ever did.
Oh, I've got it all recorded. We'll break down our bits.
Yeah, we'll break down, which is something else that we're going to do here is some of the most famous bits, like the renowned bits, the ones that, get isolated. Every comedian has 1,000 bits, but also a lot of comedians are known for a bit. And we're going to try to, at least once every episode, watch that bit along with you guys and break down what we think makes it funny, because it helps us write, and it also kind of help you understand where the funny is and some stuff. So that's something we're going to start doing so we'll do this one too.
I think that's going to be cool, because we look at a lot of like bits, and at first we're like, fuck, how do you do that? It was magic. And now you look at it and you're like, oh, I get it. That's a bait and switch. I see what he's doing there.
If anybody out there is considering doing stand-up and it's something you're interested in, 100% recommend doing it, even if you think you're going to suck, because the way once you have wrote a few jokes, even if they're terrible jokes, it doesn't matter. Once you've actually written a few jokes and you go back and watch stand up that you've watched 1,000 times, it like for some reason, for me anyway, and we talked about it already. I know it's the same for you. It's like a light switch. You look at it so different. Like it used to be this mystical, like, dude, where does he come up with this? To you watch it the day after you do stand up and you're like, oh, I see how he got there. It's so crazy how fast your head switches to like understand where their thought process was on some things.
Yeah. So, I mean, some people obviously are still fucking amazing.
Well,
but,
yeah. I mean,
but you can start to see like, oh, I get it. There's actually structure in that. That's not just him as a human being, just a supremely funny being.
Not some like alien god or anything. He's legitimately just another person who can find the funny faster or whatever. Yeah. And it really calmed me down a lot. Like, when you told me you were going to be doing an open mic, you went up the first time before I was ever there. Well, this is what
happened. So I was going to go do the open mic. So, I mean, I go to the class and I have my bit and it's like, he's like, Trav, what'd you come up with? And I'm like, well, you know, people tell me I look like a youth pastor, you know, and then I went into the whole thing and then he's like, you need to do that on stage tonight. And I'm like, absolutely not. Because, you know, I'm older now and I've got fucking stage fright. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking embarrass myself in front of these people. I've got a job and no, I'm not doing it. And he goes, you need to do it. He goes, and he kind of more or less forced me to go on stage.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not doing this.
So
he's like, just go up there, do the bit, do 1 minute and get off. Everybody else doing 5, do 1 minute and get off. And I get up there and I do fucking 7 minutes because I just got up there and I was so nervous and I kept talking and I just kept, and it went really well. Like at an open mic, you know, sometimes you'll get a warm crowd where everybody's just laughing anyways.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened, but also I was doing good. Like I got up there and I was fucking, I don't know if I was just feeling myself, and I was like, I was ad-libbing and I was adding new jokes and stuff that I was coming up with on stage, I'd use still, and I was kind of killing it. And once I got off stage, everybody's like, doesn't that feel amazing? I'm like, excuse me, I got to go fucking throw up.
I was going to say.
Because everything crashed.
We agree on most things when we're talking about comedy, but that's one of the things that like is completely different for you and me is my nerves, for whatever reason, manifest in as soon as I get off stage, I'm like nervous, but it's still that high, that feeling. You immediately get nervous and feel sick and don't want to.
It's a calm down that I'm not, because like a lot of
I'm
people
on a high for sure.
A lot of people are afraid of stage fright. And what I've noticed, when you get stage fright, you will never need a cup of coffee because you are fucking wired, buddy.
Yeah.
It gives you all the energy in the world, and then it also helps you remember because you're not thinking about your taxes or your job the next day or whatever you got to do. You're thinking about, oh, I don't want to eat shit up here, because like it's a time warp when you get up on stage, man.
Time slows down.
Did you feel that like the first time you go up on
100%.
stage?
I remember, of course, the first time you go up on stage, you know, I'm sure you did the same thing. Well, maybe not because you kind of got forced up there without really, but like the whole week before I went up, I had the bit that I was going to do, which you know what it is. It's basically one story. It's a 5-minute story, and it's a story that I've been telling for a decade and have killed, you know, at barbecues and bonfires and shit like that with it. So I felt comfortable with the story, but I had to break it down and bring it down to 5 minutes because it was way too long. So I spent literally like, I don't know, 4 hours a day for like 3 straight days, trying to memorize everything perfectly. And I had it down to every word perfectly memorized until the night of. And then I fucking dude, like the 3 hours before I left to go to the club, like the whole time I was like, what do I say after that? What? And I was freaking out. I'm like, I'm not going to remember it. I'm not going to know where I'm going. I'm just going to get up there and start rambling. And as soon as you step foot on that stage, time just slows down. It's like, oh, it feels like in between every word, you've got like 3 seconds to think about your next word. It's like everything slows down. You're like, okay. And it just, everything, you're like, oh yeah, I remember what I got to do. And it's the focus, like, I guess it's a focus thing, but it feels like you were saying, a time warp.
I think the goal, like everybody sets, when I've talked to like people from stand-up comedy classes and other comedians, the goal is 10 to 20 seconds in a 5-minute set. That's where you want to get your laughs.
Yeah. Every 10 to 20 seconds.
Every 10 to 20 seconds. And I go up there and I'm not thinking about time. I just know that when I'm not getting a laugh, it's so fucking quiet. Yeah. So like I finally get a laugh and I can't even hear it because I'm just blanking on everything. I'm just so nervous. And I just keep stepping on all the punchlines. So one of the coolest things I ever did was just start recording all the sets. So when I got off, I'm like, fuck, I stepped on that laugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, I should have just, and then you see the pro comedians go up there, like the traveling, touring comedians, and you're like, Jesus.
Do people know what they're doing?
Their timing, their confidence. And that's one of the most important things too, is just confidence. There are people up there who go up there and look like they want to be on stage and they're happy to be alive. And they go up there and have dog shit jokes, but everybody is waiting on every word they say
Oh yeah.
because they're just confident. But then there's also people who go up there with fire material, but they're so nervous and they're looking down at the floor and doing all that, and it's distracting.
Yep.
So it's almost like you'd rather be a better showman than a
Right.
comedian sometimes.
A better performer than, and that's like the great equalizer. You know, as you do open mics, especially if you're going back every week, you're going to see like 100 people try to tell jokes, right? And the thing I've noticed is if someone has really good material and poor stage presence, they get the same amount of laughs as someone who's got terrible jokes but really good stage presence. It's like the equalizer.
Yeah.
And then I think your greats, the people who make it, are the people who have both. That's what it boils down to. They're able to combine the two.
And I still haven't figured out what I've got yet. I'm like, I talked to you about it. I call it my superpower. Like,
Yeah.
what everybody's got strengths and weaknesses, and I'm trying to figure out what mine are. And everybody's told me I've got pretty good stage presence.
Oh yeah.
Nobody's ever been like, "Hey, you write funny shit." And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's what I wanted you to say." But
It'd be nice if you told me I was
You know,
funny,
you
but
told me I
no,
was
yeah,
funny.
I'm
Like,
loud. I
wow,
get it.
You're so good on stage. I'm like, you're, but I'm like, okay, that makes sense because whenever we were kids and in school and trying to make people laugh, people call it holding court or holding church
Right.
when you stand around and you've got everybody waiting on your
Yeah.
every breath. And like, I did that because I hated awkward silences.
Yeah.
When I was in school and people were talking and shit got weird or awkward, I'm like, well, this is a little too uncomfortable. Like, so let's just go ahead and put on a song and dance and make sure everybody's laughing so we can't talk about the stuff I don't want to talk about. If, they were talking about, Travis, why doesn't, your dad drive a nice new truck? And I'm like, hey, fuck you, Billy. Your mom's a whore. Let's talk about that. Anyways, airline food.
I remember, we'd be on bus rides or whatever together growing up, and we usually tag teamed it. We were the duo of like holding court, like you were saying, and I think that still is reflected in our stage
that
presence.
FBLA trip we took?
Fuck yeah.
It's a future business leaders. Oh yeah, a lot of business leaders coming out of podunk fucking nowhere.
That's how pathetic, fucking pathetic I am. That like a highlight of my life is a time on a bus where we just fucking murdered for like the whole
This
trip.
is how you know we were nerds back then too.
Yeah.
So we're on this bus trip. And it's just awkward because it's middle schoolers mixing with high schoolers and,
Yep.
Fucking hormones. Kids are weird. They're like
Yep.
looking at some chicks like titties, fantasizing about whatever. And just
hot take: the future business leaders of America, not the coolest kids in school. Man, that's a general rule of thumb.
we just thought it was cool because that meant we got to take a trip, maybe get to eat at Cracker Barrel. I'm like, that's a good day
Yeah.
out of school. And like, it just got
Still
so
a good
weird
day.
to the point where you and me started just like, I don't know, like, some people call it snaps. We were just roasting each other.
Yeah.
And then people were laughing and they're like, and then they were asking us, I'm like, okay, what else? What else? And I'm like, what do you mean, what else? And I was like, okay, all right, you guys want to hear a joke? And then
Yep.
you key up the Aristocrats.
Yep.
And we fucking made it the dirtiest. If
Oh
you don't
my
know the
God.
Aristocrats, it's just an old joke where there's really not a punchline. And the whole goal is just to be as obscene and
filthy
as
and
possible.
Yeah.
You just keep going in.
it's an anti-joke is what it is, and it's a fucking great one, especially if you're tag team duoing it up and just go back and forth with the nastiest, most raunchy shit you can come up with. Bob Saget does a great job with that.
Great job. But like whenever you'd get like whenever you would start running out of things to say, I would pick up on it. I'm like, all right, let me take over.
Yep.
And then I would start saying stuff. And then whenever I'd be like, okay, I'm running out of funny, then you would take back over.
It was so good.
And we had them rolling forever. And then like, it never dawned us as like, hey, maybe we could do this. And
Yeah.
like, no, it's just like, oh, that was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, remember that time? That was good. I think you can still see our dynamic in our stage presence now, though, because you're the high energy, loud, like, look at me, here's what I've got to say. And I kind of do this like sad sack thing where I'm like kind of quiet and like, yeah, this is fucking whatever.
Almost like a straight man or something.
Yeah. And I think we've done that for so long that's why I still do it on stage. I've got to get my energy up. I know that. It's just so hard to do because when I'm in funny mode, and everybody has that, I think, like when you switch from like your everyday being yourself, doing your, work, emails, phone calls, whatever, when you switch that over and become the funny guy, when I do that, I go into like this, like I'm almost disgusted by everything. Do you get that vibe when I'm doing that? Like, it's just like fucking this thing pissed me off over here. And I just do that shit a lot.
See, what kills me is like in comedy, they call it a shtick. It's like Bill Burr's like, he's the angry guy.
Yeah.
Or, Theo Vaughn's the weird country, like check out all these mannerisms I
Right.
can make up. Everybody in like
Burt Kreischer's the party guy.
yeah, Dane Cook was the high energy
Yeah.
fucking exaggeration guy. And for me it was like what always made it fun. I mean, like we grew up in like a really like we grew up in the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah.
So we grew up around a lot of people that had a
Very rural.
very rural, thick
The fact
accent.
that we have a comedy club is fucking mind blowing. Like
Well,
that is not something I ever thought I'd
I think
see.
we bonded too because we were pretty liberal growing up in a place that wasn't very liberal. I mean, it's hard to be liberal because they don't make a gluten-free Slim Jim. You know what I'm saying?
Not too liberal, just a little liberal.
Just a little liberal. So it's like, I mean, I understand electric cars are going to save the world, but sometimes you just want to hear a Hemi roar. You know what I'm saying? But that's my shtick. Is what I would do is I would start putting on a fucking accent
Yep.
and just making fun of those around me, and it would kill.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what. It makes me kind of nervous because it still kills. And like the thing is, I've been all over. I've been to like California.
Yeah.
I've been to other cities traveling for work, and I would in parties with people. They think that's hilarious because it's easy to make fun of the southern accent.
Here it gets. I think it's you get a laugh everywhere with it, but I think it gets a different laugh, and not at a different time or anything during the bit. But like the laugh here is because people are like, "Oh, I relate to that.
Yeah.
I know that guy." And the people everywhere else is like, that's ludicrous that
Yeah.
anyone would think like that. So it's like either a holy shit, that's a fucking wild thought, or I know Bob. Like
Yeah.
that's your two laughs.
I
there.
think for me, it's like an insecurity thing. It's like I'm about to tell a joke.
If it
I
doesn't
don't
go
know if you're
well.
gonna laugh. So if I do it in a different voice,
Yeah.
you're not laughing at me. You know, like if you don't laugh, then it's not Travis that told the bad joke. It's fucking
the guy
Jim
with
Bob.
the funny accent.
Yeah.
I don't think I code switch at all on stage. Do I? Have you noticed me doing that? Like
No.
changing my voice or anything?
So there's things I've noticed on so like when you're telling a joke, it seems like the basic premise of a joke is like you got to say something unexpected.
Right.
So there's a bait and switch, or there's some sort of weird ironic turn to
Yeah.
something that you didn't expect. Set up, and then there's the punchline, and then after the punchline, in a story or anything else, there's like an act out. And I like comedians better when they put on a voice when they're acting for other things. Like everybody does it.
Yeah. That's
Like
true.
Chris D'Elia does his drunk girl voice.
Right.
And, you know, Burt Kreischer, Bill Burr, when he does a woman, he like does it up a little bit higher. Like everybody does a voice. Some people do great impressions. Some people just do a voice. So for me, I lean on that redneck voice all the time.
Yeah.
You ham it up a little, but only when it's you know.
Yeah. I was gonna say your redneck voice comes into play sometimes
When it
there's
doesn't
no
need to, yeah.
You're just telling your joke, but you're doing it in a different voice.
Like I got this joke where, and I got a tag. A tag is like, so you tell a joke, the punchline's the punchline, the tag is when you keep it going.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about, trying to learn tips from porn because I'm not good at sex. And a tag that somebody gave me was, talking about I can't learn anything from ethnic porn because I don't exactly have a BBC, on my regular white body. And he's like, what would be funny is if you say, I wish they would do penis sizes like McDonald's does. They got rid of the small, went straight to medium.
Right.
So I tried it on stage and it didn't really get a laugh. So my brain went to, so I go like, that's why I wish we would do penis sizes the way McDonald's does. Got rid of small, went straight to medium. I'm a medium fry, honey. I have a medium fry. I thought I was going to get a laugh, no laugh. And that's, my brain just said like, ooh, throw this on there. And it's like, I'm about to walk my ass over to Starbucks. I'm a grande over there.
Yeah.
Got a laugh. I was like,
Yeah.
that's cool. But I was unsure of the joke. So there's no reason. But I went, about to walk my ass over to Starbucks. I'm a grande over there.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for me to be.
It's like your safety blanket
Yeah,
or something.
100%.
If you could get rid of that though, that'd be good.
That's what makes me mad too. Is like, so since we've been doing comedy,
Yeah.
I've had a lot
In
of
our
people,
illustrious long
fucking
career.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people tell me,
How fucking pretentious are we that we're like 8 weeks in?
about to start a podcast.
Time to
It's
tell the
right
world
idea.
what we think, goddammit.
See, we just did it. We just did it.
We did the voice.
Tell the world they need to know. About time to learn.
Well, I was doing it there, not for the safety of the joke, but because I wanted to show how stupid I'm being. So, like sometimes you get mad at people who are not from a rural area because they get like, they think that we're all stupid, so they do a redneck accent to sound stupid. But I fucking do it too.
Yeah.
Like when I want to show how stupid I'm being, I throw on the hick.
But in all fairness, I know a lot of smart people who live around here. They don't have that accent.
Yeah, they got rid of it because they're not fucking dumb.
They all sound like my dad, and that's why I feel like I get to say it. What'd you say? What was that word again? Well, how the fuck you say it? Specific, Dad. All right, well, that's what specifically you're queer.
I like how it's not how is it said, it's how do you say it.
How you say it, Dan?
Yeah, like, well,
Oh my God.
I have my way of saying it, but how do you say
You know what's fucking weird is like I was thinking the other day too. I was like, how many words? Like the reason I don't have such a huge accent is people like, I've got one and it comes out, but it's not as bad as what I should have.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? It's when I learned to read, I was like, oh, those words aren't pronounced that way. And like the biggest one was like, chest of drawers. It was like Chester drawers.
Yeah.
Chester drawer. I'm like, how do you even spell that? And they're like, oh, it's chest of drawers.
Yeah.
Or like people would say, I'm about to bust your hind end. I'm like, what the fuck is a hind end?
Yeah.
And then, like,
H-I-N-E-N. Hind
Yeah.
end.
Oh, it's hind end.
Yep.
But we don't say those words.
No.
And there's so many things that I still fuck up and say wrong because like that's how I learned to say it. But then when you go to like write it down or text it to somebody, you're like, oh, that's not correct.
Yeah, there's not even an autocorrect to help me out here. I must be saying that wrong my whole life. I didn't know. So another question for you. What point in your life did you decide you wanted to try stand up, or was it just you got thrown on stage, or was it something you're always like, I'll do it one day?
It had to be, I mean, it's something I've always wanted to do because like I love creating things like music. I make videos for YouTube. Like I like making things. The idea of like taking something in your brain and turning it into something real is cool. And the thing about comedy that was always so appealing to me was like with music, you play a song and at the end somebody claps if you did good or bad. And even if you suck, they clap. And that's voluntary.
Yeah.
It's like whether you're good or bad, people will still clap.
Right.
Comedy is involuntary because you got to laugh. Right? So to make somebody laugh, it's instant. You don't have to wait till the end of the joke. You don't have to wait till the end of the song. It's as soon as you hit a punchline, boom, they laugh.
Yeah.
And it's involuntary.
Instant feedback.
You get instant feedback. And I was like, that was cool to me because you get to create stuff out of your head. Because like, some people argue whether comedy's art or not. And what I think art is like anything that somebody creates that makes somebody feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And like the good art sticks with you. Like sometimes you'll see a movie and it doesn't have a happy ending. It's got a really fucked up ending, but you think about it for the next 2 weeks. You're like, oh, that was a good movie. That was a piece of art.
Yeah, it had to be. Otherwise you wouldn't still be thinking about it.
Or like imagine you're on your couch and you're dead asleep and you're so tired, but somebody plays a certain song and you're like, man, I'm ready to run through a fucking wall right now, dude. Like that's art.
Like our pump up songs for drinking in college. Yeah.
So the same thing with comedy. It's like you could be mean mugging me the entire show. And I'm looking at you and I want to get you and I'm going to reach down inside of you and pull out a fucking laugh.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, oh, that's the most rewarding thing ever because I made you do something involuntary.
Yeah.
Music, you can, if you're good, you can make somebody feel a certain way. But you can't, like, if they clap, that they still chose to do that.
Yeah.
You've never once, like, hicced up and fucking clapped. It's not an involuntary thing like laughing. So the thing
like
about
you're forcing them to do it.
Yeah,
even if it's against their will.
So it was always something that was cool to me, but
Sounds a little rapey.
Yeah, a little bit. Like I'm making you do that, baby.
There's the voice.
I'm sticking with it. That's all I know. But no, so like I've always wanted to do it, and people have told me to do it. But after a while, when you get older, you're like I'm not 18 anymore.
Right.
It's I can't try this now. Like I'm too old to start something new.
Yeah.
And then this opportunity came up, and I go up on stage, do the bit, and I do okay. And people told me like, "Wow, was that your first time up on open mic?" And then that was the worst thing they could ever fucking said to me.
It was over then.
That was the worst thing. They're like, was that your first time? And I'm like, yeah, it was. Like, dude, you did really good. And from there on, it was like in my brain, I'm like, oh, I'm fucking built different. I'm made for this. I got to do it.
I remember you called me when you first found out about the comedy class and was like, hey, I'm going to take this class to learn how to write some jokes for the YouTube channel. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me know how it goes. And you're like, I think they're going to start doing open mics because you started the class basically as the club opened. It's a brand new club. So you started with the club. So we didn't know that there was going to be like a open mic every Wednesday like there is now. We didn't learn that until after you were already in the class.
I mean, I didn't even know it was there. Yeah, I just saw the flyer and I was like, all right, let's go take this class. Let's see what kind of crapshoot this is.
And you told me we're going to start doing every Wednesday. We're going to have open mics at the club. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe we'll try it sometime. Because we talked 1,000 times about doing open mics at some point.
It was
in our
always
lives
like
somewhere.
a fantasy though,
Yeah.
It's always like, the fantasy.
One of the things we talk about, but no, we were never actually going to do.
It's like I can play guitar and you see those YouTube videos of like somebody from Kiss pulling a dude up on stage to play guitar. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. I always thought about like maybe, and I would never do this, but maybe I'm the guy that heckles a comedian. He's like, you think you can fucking do better? And then I go up there and I just do a type 5. Yeah. I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah, it makes me hard.
Check this shit out, bitch.
So I had always considered at some point I'm probably going to get on stage and try it, like, but never really.
You sort of did it though, like on a cruise ship one time.
Yeah, I was going to get into that, but then you called me like after the night you did your first, and you're like, so I did my first. I was like, you motherfucker! How dare I had never ever like set a time or place that we were ever going to do it. Like, you know, there's a comedy club a couple hours from here. We could have went and done it any point in our life. But as soon as I found out you'd done it without me, I was so fucking mad at you. You motherfucker. How dare you try that shit without me? And you told me it was awesome. It's exactly what we thought it was going to be. And you told me you killed. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going next week.
Yep.
And I'm immediately shitting bricks. You've already got that first one under your belt. So you get to be the guy, like the seasoned vet in my world. Because you're like, it's fine, man. You're going to go up. There's going to be some lights. Just explain everything to me. I'm like, okay, all right. And it's your fucking second time. You've done a total of 5 minutes of stage time. But to me, you had like well blown by me. You were already like in a whole nother realm of comedy for me because you'd already tasted that first fear
too. Like, because I was in the class, like, because if I had to go sign up on my own, I probably just wouldn't have fucking done it because like I didn't know anything about a sign up sheet or how it works or what a mic is. So like, because I was the open mic started immediately after the class. Like class ends and then the sign up for the open mic starts.
Right.
And then I was lucky enough, the owner of the club was like, hey, are you going to go up? And then you put my name down. That's not typically how it works.
Right.
If it's an open mic where you don't have to like send in, you know, a 10-minute set and a headshot.
That's something I've learned since we've been doing this is like talking to people who are away from here. We're so lucky we have the club that we have and the way that it works, because a lot of places you have to earn your time.
Yeah.
Like you either got to bark, which is basically hand out flyers outside of a club until,
or you got to fucking play at a brewery or someplace that's not even a dedicated comedy club,
or bringer shows where you have to bring a certain number of people before they'll even let you on stage.
So this place was awesome.
This is a true blue open mic we're doing. We haven't earned anything.
You show up and then you just fucking put your name on a list and then you get to go up, and it's that easy.
Yeah.
And like they're super accommodating. So like, but we go in, put the name on the list, and it's just something we've kind of been doing. And I mean, you know, if it wasn't for like the class and me kind of getting my feet wet in there and talking to these people, I would have went up there and like show me a notebook and I would have been like, I don't know, fuck, I'm gonna go home.
I'm so glad you went through it though, because you were able to like walk me through it, and
it's weird too because it's something that I wanted to do but never had the balls to do it.
Yeah, and
then I kind of get thrown up there. And I'm like, fuck, I wish I would have done this 10 years earlier.
And because you had done it, like the little brother in me or whatever, like the whatever deep seated bullshit's going on in my life, I was like, I'm not letting him do something I can't do. So that by you getting forced, it forced me up. I didn't have a choice. I did do on a cruise ship one time. There was a stand-up comedian and he was doing a night, like the 4th or 5th night of the cruise or whatever. He would let people come up and tell a joke. And I was like, man, that is so cool that he's willing to let somebody else. And then I found out it's probably just because he didn't have the material. Like, if you think about it, that's probably the only reason he was doing that shit. Because he was like, well, I've got 3 nights of material. So who wants to tell a joke?
He's on a cruise. He's got the shits from eating something at some port somewhere. And he's like, man, this sucks.
So, of course, because I'm obsessed with stand-up, just like you, when I'm on a cruise, every night that there's a show, I'm going. Even if it's the same guy over and over, it doesn't matter. Just I'm obsessed with it. Always have been. And he says, if you've got a funny joke, come after the show and tell me what joke you want to tell, and I'll let you come up. If it's good, I'll let you come up tomorrow night and tell it. So, or you can tell me the joke and I'll tell it for you. Just like old jokes, you know, the water cooler jokes, ones you've heard your whole life or whatever. So I went up and I told him 2. He's like, oh, I love both of those jokes. I've heard them years ago. You got to come up and do them both. And I was like, oh, I get 2 jokes. Guess I'm built different. So I remember like this is my first time. You did music, you did a band, you performed on stage.
I didn't do band. I didn't have a fucking oboe in my hands, dude. Like,
I said you did a band.
I was in a band.
I sound like your grandma. You do a band, don't you?
You do band at the Walmarts.
You were in a band,
yes.
So you had performed in front of people and on stage. The very first time I ever put feet on a stage and said anything to a room full of strangers was on this cruise ship. So I'm in my room, cabin, closet, whatever you fucking call it.
Stateroom.
Yeah, and I'm just going over a joke that I've told 1,000 times. And it's you guys have probably heard the joke. I know you've heard it.
Voodoo Dick?
Voodoo Dick. And I also did the fuck it, I'll do the dishes.
Oh, okay.
So I
so
tell
just
them,
regular jokes.
Yeah, just jokes like this thing, you know, why the chicken crossed the road. You get that type of joke, not bits you've written. I've heard it both ways. These are like just regular ass jokes, and I'm going over it like I'm about to do my first fucking. This is my
like
Madison
set on Fallon.
This is my Madison Square Garden, right? And there's like, 40 people in there, and this is a big fucking deal to me. And I step up on stage, and the lights are in my eyes. and there's the stool sitting beside of me. And, you know, they got the backdrop, and it feels like every comedy special I've ever seen or every YouTube clip I've ever watched. You can't see anybody. The lights are directly in your eyes. You can't see anybody out there. And they just hand me the microphone, and there's like 4 people went before me, and I just start telling my joke. And the bad part about a joke instead of a bit is there's only one laugh, and it's at the end of the joke. Like, you don't get little pieces throughout you do a bit. So I tell the first one. I don't remember which one I did first, and there's just a roar of laughter. And it was like that second I was like, oh yeah, that's that good shit right there. And I was like, all right, I got one more for y'all. Like I was up there fucking ad-lib. I got one more for y'all. Like I'm fucking doing Fallon. Like he said, I do the other joke. Roaring laughter. The guy takes the mic, gets ready to go to the next person, goes, I'd fucking hate to follow that. Good luck, buddy. And I was like, you goddamn right you would. Enjoy following me with 2 jokes that are on the internet.
In a joke book somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
No, like, so the first time I go up, I don't hear the laughs. Like, but I get off and everybody was, you know, kind of sucking my dick. Like, oh, you did so good. You did this, you did that. And just being complimentary. I'm like, oh, it's just because it's the first time. They want me to think that I did good. And then I thought I did terrible. Yeah. Because I'm like, I didn't hear the first laugh. And then I watched the recording. I'm like, no, I did exactly what it was weird because it was my first time up, but it was like it was a polished bit because it was a laugh every 10 seconds. Yeah. And I've talked to the audience. I did everything I was supposed to do. Stage presence was okay. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, when I was on stage, I didn't hear a single laugh. It was just crickets the entire time. Yep. And I didn't hear
that's the same thing that happened to me after, like, the first time I went up and did my own stuff, my own written material, first time I did an open mic actual stand-up, not the cruise ship 2 jokes, is I felt like I killed. The whole time I was up there, I felt like I was killing. I stepped off stage, I was like, I murdered that crowd. I'm the fucking man. Like, I felt great the whole time. And from that point forward, I felt like shit forever. Like, I did the same exact 5 the next week, and felt like, it didn't really go as well as it did the previous week. And then I wrote some new material and it went even worse. And then I did some more stuff and it went even worse. And there was this big downhill before it came back uphill, which we'll get into more in the future. Yeah.
We'll probably start showing some of our bits and breaking them down. Like, it sucks because we're so new. It's not like we've got just a backlog.
Let me show you the beautiful art.
This is the hour I threw away. Like, we don't have like a ton of like jokes to get rid of.
Which I think is good because this is the type of thing that I was looking for when I first got into this. Is I wanted someone like, I don't want to, don't get me wrong. I love 2 Bears, 1 Cave and I love Joe Rogan. I don't want to hear seasoned vets who've been doing theaters and arenas for 20 years to tell me how to do comedy.
No, like I want to talk to you about, this is why I thought this would be funny. Yeah. This is why it didn't work or why it did work. Yeah. And like, that was, I don't know, it's like a weird goal I had in my head. When I started doing this, I was like, okay, I did the bit that they gave me. Now I need to do a story. So I did a story. I'm like, now I need to do crowd work. So I try to do that. Now I need to do I tried to like check off all the types of jokes. Right, there's like analogy. There's like a
there's
pun,
no comic that doesn't do them all.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to be really good, like Anthony Jeselnik will do his one-liners all day long.
He doesn't have a whole lot of story stuff.
It's something special, like that he does that. But most of your like big comedians that are super enjoyable, if I'm going to listen to you for an hour, I got to be able to listen to the whole thing. So it's got to be stories. It's got to be jokes. It's got to be personal experience. It's got to be the whole thing. So I wanted to get up there and do that. And I kind of made it like this personal little mission to get up there. And I would love to, like, as I was getting started, 2 months ago, I would love to hear somebody
back in the day.
I would love to hear somebody like talk about like, this is why I decided to do this. This is why this joke maybe works. This is why this doesn't work. Right. So I mean, like, even though these bits are new and we may continue to use them, like, it's not like I have any disillusions of being on Fallon or something like that. This is just something I really enjoy doing. I've had a ton of fun doing it. So if I have to show some bits and
I'm not worried about losing a bit. I mean, also, if there's any bit that's so good that somebody wants to steal it, if it's on the internet, like, prove that it's ours to begin with.
Sometimes ideas just don't work. Like, comedians come out to music. A lot of times it's like this fucking music, and it's like they'll go cut the music, or they're like, all right, cut it, and I'm like, that's so cool. I want to do that. So I go out on this open mic. I don't know if you know this. They don't play custom walkout music at an open mic. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll make my own. I start beatboxing to the mic.
Oh my God.
I'm like, all right, cut it, and like fucking crickets. I was like,
everyone just stared at him. What the fuck is wrong with this
But I had
guy?
to walk and put the mic stand back and pretend I'm walking back on stage, and it's a lonely walk when you know immediately that this is a bad idea. And Tom slows down, so I'm up there for like 5 fucking minutes. I'm like, this is.
I told you for 3 days, dude, don't do it. It's
I'm like,
not gonna
it's
work.
gonna work, dude.
And because you're so stubborn and you're like, nah, I'm gonna fucking
Well,
show
the week
you.
before, so like I've got this joke that I want to do, and he's like, I think that's a little too much. I don't know if I would do that because it was kind of a risque, dirty joke or whatever. And we'll talk about hack and things like that later on. Like this wasn't that. This was just a dirty joke that's kind of unique.
I
but,
thought he needed to tone back a little bit on the phrasing to keep it from being too gross.
yeah, but the word that I wanted to use hit on everything I was trying to say. It you know, and I'm a big fan of economy of words. If you can say it all in one word and people know what you mean,
Oh, and it killed.
do it.
It
And
was
I get up
perfect.
on stage and I say it and it fucking kills. I'm like, everybody told me not to say it and it fucking murdered. It's still one of my biggest laughs. And I'm like, okay,
But
then
there was-
I think beatboxing is going to be fucking funny. I'm going to get up there and I'm going to beatbox.
Hey.
And guess what didn't happen? Nobody laughed and
Because-
nobody gave a shit. It was kind of like, look at me. But I had to make that lonely walk to the edge of the stage because I'm like, it'd be kind of cool if I had fucking intro music like a real comedian. I walked to the edge of this very small stage. I walked to the edge of it and I had to walk 4 feet back to the center, beatboxing by myself the whole way. And it was so lonely. And I'm like, I've already committed. I just gotta batten down the hatches. I gotta wade through the storm. I gotta make it. And it was so embarrassing.
It was like a train wreck. Like, because I watched it. I was there.
And then I gotta get him
watched
back.
it, and I'm like, oh, I'm
like,
just
anyway, so
watching.
who wants to talk about my mother? They're like, what the fuck?
What's the deal with airline food?
Oh man.
Oh my God. It was such a disaster. It was
bad.
hilarious. All right.
Anyways, so I think with this podcast, like I said, we've been trying to we're going to break down our bits in the future. And I think it's cool to try to demystify and show you what, hey, once you actually get up on stage, what you think is magic isn't really magic. There's a method to the madness. So we're going to break down some bits. One of the bits that we first connected on
Yep.
and talked about because we knew it word for word was off the Blue Collar Comedy towards Ron White's Tater Salad. Famous story. One of the best.
Probably his most well-known bit at this point. I'd
100%.
still to this day, I would say, even though it happened in, God, what was it, 2006, 7,
Since
something
like
like
Jerry Clower, there's not like a ton of like storytelling
Yeah.
comedians.
that? Which I think I pull a lot from Ron White unknowingly.
Yeah. So we're going to watch this bit. We're going to play it, you know, all the way through, and then we'll go back and break it down.
Yep. So if you're listening to just the audio version, you'll be able to hear it. It's going to play through now.
If it's the video
If
version,
you're on the video version, go watch it now by
We'll link
yourself.
it in the description
We'll have a link
below.
in the description for it. But we're going to watch it all the way through, and then we'll go back and break it down. So, all right. So we're going to play it back through and do some pausing and breaking down. One of my favorite bits. Still.
classic.
It still
But
makes
now
me.
that I watch it after like doing something like, oh, I see what he did there. And
Yeah.
then also,
It's totally different lenses.
did you see where he was like trying to, there's a part in there where
We'll
he,
get there.
Yeah, there's a part in there where he wanted to laugh and
I
didn't
got
get it.
thrown out of a bar in New York City.
Instantaneously, everyone knows the bit already. You
Yeah.
can tell because everyone's pumped
Cheers.
about it. Like they know what part's coming.
And here's the thing about Ron White too, because of his voice, mannerisms, how he like, he's got a whole persona.
Yeah.
He's just funny. He can just say stuff that most people wouldn't
Now,
get a
when I
laugh
say
with.
I got thrown out of a bar, I don't mean somebody asked me to leave. We walked to the door together, and I said, bye, everybody, I gotta go. 6 bouncers hurled me out of a nightclub like I was a frisbee.
I think it's important right there that he says, I got thrown out of a bar. And when I say I got thrown out of a bar, I guarantee you he thought about saying bar again right there. 6 bouncers hurled me out of a nightclub like I was a frisbee.
Yeah.
The fact that he switches and doesn't say bar again, I think that's important.
Yeah.
That you different word for the same thing.
Because
Keeps
he doesn't
people
want to get
interested, yeah.
repetitive. And I think like they hurled man out there like a frisbee. It could have been anything, and he's picking frisbee because it's a funny word. And the way
Yeah.
he says it, because he's got that overdone Texas drawl like
Yeah.
a frisbee.
Like a frisbee.
He's gonna make so many people laugh just on the fact that he's fucking saying it in a weird word. And you know,
Yeah. That frisbee's a funny word anyway.
yeah,
So that with his Texas inflection, it's even better.
Those big old bouncers that go home every night, watch Roadhouse, and feed off. You know what I'm talking
It's a
about?
dated reference. You couldn't do that right
Patrick
now.
Swayze's hitting
If
another
this, joke
guy.
was, if this joke was written right now, like if
Like-
people didn't already know the joke,
yeah. TikTokers don't know about Roadhouse, which
Yeah.
they should. But see, this is like a classic act out. So he says, you know, it's funny because he says those big old bouncers that go home and beat off.
Yeah.
To Roadhouse, and then he does the act out like, oh, Patrick Swayze's hitting another dude. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
That's classic. Like you get your setup, your punchline, and then he acts it out. That's great.
He doesn't even do it. I think it's unique. He doesn't do a jack off motion there. How many comics do a bit about jacking off and they do something? He doesn't. He rolls his eyes back in his head. He's purely acting out the orgasm.
I think it's because he doesn't want to be
For wearing a
seen
hat. I
as
walk into a
hack like
bar with a
everybody else
hat
does
on. This
that.
guy real pissy. He goes, took off the hat.
There's another act there.
I'm like, what's the deal? He goes, I tell you what
Worst
the deal
New York
is.
accent ever.
Faggots in this area wear hats. We're trying to keep them out of
We
our
shouldn't say that word.
Yeah, you can't say that word
2020.
anymore.
I'm like, oh, really? The only way we could tell down south is if they have their hair cut like yours.
And because of his look at the fucking look at him,
that
just
mouth,
angry chicklets. Just like it's like a group of teeth that are all like crowded in the front. Like, let me in the front. Holy shit! Look at that grill. Goodness gracious! Oh my God, Mama, look at that grill.
Anyway, what were you saying?
I was saying he can get away with what he's like. That's probably not a joke most people are gonna get a laugh with, but because he pauses and like people are waiting for what he's just a likable guy.
He also, to his credit, even though he dropped the hard F word there, to his credit, he was pretty progressive for the Blue Collar Comedy Tour.
Right.
Because he's got a pro-gay joke, and he's got a joke about how his friend is gay because he watches, you remember the thing about watching porn? He's like, you like seeing a small, half-flaccid penis? No, I want the guy to have a big, hard cock.
I mean, I guess you could probably, he might still be able to get away with that joke. I mean, obviously, you know, he's probably still going to do tater salad.
Yeah.
But it's because he's not saying it. So it's someone else said.
I think
and he took offense to it.
This clip isn't from the Blue Collar show.
He said gay people in the club.
I think he said gays in this area where.
He also left out another punchline that I really like in other versions. I think we're getting there.
Yeah, we'll get there in a second. He's proud of that one.
Yep.
And he got all pissed. But he walked away, and I took the hat
Wish you
off.
could
Like an
smoke on
hour
stage,
later,
it
I'd been
helps.
drinking, and I forgot. You ever forget? Happened to me. I put the hat back on. The guy comes over to me. Now, I'm between 6'1" and 6'6", depending on which convenience store I'm leaving.
That is smart. Okay, so two things happened there. He said, ever forget, it happened to me. You know, and that's something that people can take home and just say. It's a funny thing to say, and they can have that.
I forgot. You
Ever forget, it happened to me.
Happened to me.
And then the great part of this joke is like, when you can do smart comedy, it's like to me the best form of comedy is when you can make people think of something that's mundane in a different way.
Yeah.
Everybody's walked out of a gas station and seen those fucking height meters,
tapes,
you know, it's to help you in case there's a robbery.
Yeah,
and he's
they
like, I'm
can-
between 6'1" and 6'6", depending on what gas station you're leaving, because those things are never accurate.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, that's hilarious.
Right.
Because, you know,
It tells you a lot about him, the fact that he's noticed that, and also he's in a lot of gas stations. He's, you know, probably pretty rural area, all that stuff, because that's the only time you see those tapes.
Yeah.
Is in the shitty gas
So
stations.
for the comedy world, all he had to do is what he's trying to get across is I'm not a small person.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to throw me out easily.
Yeah.
But by saying I'm between 6'1" and 6'6", depending on which gas station you're leaving, is the best possible way to say that.
Oh, yeah.
He took something that was filler but necessary information to get to his next joke, and he made it a joke.
And he's also proving that he's not like a small, diminutive guy without being like, look how fucking tough I am.
Yeah.
Like he's doing it in a funny way.
Yeah, that's the best way he could have handled it.
I weigh 235 pounds. This guy comes over to me, poking me in the shoulder with two fingers, says, "You're out of here." I'm like, "I don't think so, Scooter."
It's just funny because scooter's a funny word,
Yeah,
especially in the
that's all that is.
Texas scooter.
I don't think so, Scooter. I think in another version, I think he says fucker. I think.
I mean, he's been doing this shit for. I bet.
I
That's
bet
the
tater
crazy.
salad's been.
That's the
done
crazy
for-
thing too. Is like, I've done the same bit on stage. You know, several bits. I've done them. I've redone them multiple times. I've repeated
has to.
bits.
Yeah.
And the laughs you get at certain points versus others, or when you're up there, you're like, I think I'm going to change it to this in the moment, and it might work or it might not. So I bet doing this story night after night, city after city, I bet he's got a million different versions.
Oh, I'm sure. I guarantee you he spends more time telling tater salad different ways than he does working new material sometimes.
Right.
And I was wrong. They hurled my ass. And then they squared off with me in the parking lot, and I backed down from the fight because I don't know how many of them it would have taken to whip my ass. but I knew how many they were going to use.
See, right there, whenever you see a comedian take a sip, that means they're expecting a punchline.
Yeah.
They're expecting a laugh.
Yeah, there's going to be.
That's not a punchline. It's like, I don't know how many comedians, I don't know how many bouncers they're going to use to beat my ass, but I know how many they're going to use.
yeah, how many it would take him, but I don't know how many they're going to use. Yeah.
That's not exactly funny, but because he said it in this story, and everybody, look at that crowd. whole lot of empty mouths in that crowd. But you look, and then that is a line that these dudes in the front row especially, are itching to go home and use on their friends. They can't fucking wait.
Oh, yeah. Also, not for nothing, not a lot of diversity in that crowd.
Nope. Just a lot of dudes with goatees and mustaches.
And ball caps. Not
I
that
think
can
that's
talk,
a female
but
right there to the right of the bald dude.
That's unfortunate for her.
Because she looks just like the dude to the left of the bald dude.
That's a very unfortunate looking lady.
This is like a catalog of failed dreams and shitty haircuts is what this is.
But they eat his shit up, and we did too.
Look at that
Buddy,
dude right there
12-year
with his fucking Pit Viper, Macho Man, Randy Savage sunglasses in the second row there.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
It's Richard Petty.
it's dark, brother.
We ate this shit up at 12 years old, though.
You damn right.
We repeated this 1,000 times to each other.
It's a handy little piece of information to have right there.
See, that's a
Overkill.
tag. He got a laugh and he just
Well, they
kept
called the
going.
police because we broke a chair on the way out the door, and I refused to pay for it. And the cops showed
See,
up.
Right there. That's the thing I
Yeah.
was telling you about. I hate that I guess maybe he added it later, or maybe he forgot it during this. I don't know where this set is or whatever, but there's a tag that goes on the end of that I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite parts of the joke where he says, the cops were called because I refused to pay for a bar stool. And normally he has a tag there that says, and I refused to pay for it because we broke it over my thigh. I think that's such a smart way of saying that.
They beat your ass.
Yeah, they whipped my ass. Yeah. I love that.
And it's hilarious. Yeah, and that's a lot of the jokes you'll get, like I said, it's what you're not expecting. So that's like an ironic joke. You're like, I refuse to pay for it because we broke it over my thigh. We, it's like we're a group now, but it's
That's
smart.
That's really good way to write that.
And at that point, I had the right to remain silent, but I didn't have the ability.
See, that's another punchline where it's not exactly a punchline, but because he says it in his shtick, people just want to laugh at it. That's why they're cheering
Well,
right
also,
now.
I think the crowd has a lot to do with it there too, because it's like that was the big hit for them.
Yeah.
Is that I had the right to remain silent, but I didn't have the ability.
I
It's
think
because half of those people have been drunk and cussed a cop. Like they relate really
a
heavily.
lot of his stuff, it's quotable stuff that they're going to take home. Like, man, I wish I had this on a T-shirt or a bumper sticker.
Yep.
And that's, I guess, comedians will suck their own dick sometimes, saying like, I'm a modern day prophet. We think about things in a weird, and like he does. He's thinking about things that rednecks have thought of.
Yeah.
But he's framing it in a funny way that's nice and concise, and he's giving them a package to take it home with.
Right.
It's like, hey, you've ever wanted to yell at a cop? Well, here's how you could say that. I had the right to remain
Cop
silent.
says,
but
Mr.
I
White,
didn't
you
have
are
the
being
ability."
charged with drunk in public. I was like, hi.
That's such a good drunk
I was
voice.
drunk in a bar. They threw me into public. I don't want to be drunk in public. I want to be drunk in a goddamn bar, which is perfectly legal. Arrest them.
I don't think that got the pop it deserved.
But see, that's another thing that's a non-joke. There's not like it's.
Yeah, but still, I think.
He's getting a laugh at the hi because it's funny.
Yeah.
And then I didn't want to be drunk. He's just saying things that these people have all thought and felt. Like a lot of these people sympathize with that.
Yeah.
If he did this joke at freaking, some, the Hamptons or some shit, it's probably not going to kill.
Yeah,
But these people have all been there.
Yeah.
We've been there. So like him saying that is like, oh, I get it. And he's just framing it in a way that's nice for him.
I feel like that should have got a bigger pop right there. I love that part.
Well, he didn't arrest them. Instead, they call in for my arrest record. There's some good news. Satellites are linking up in outer space. Computer banks at NASA are kicking on. There's a telegraph in Fritch, Texas going beep, 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 beep,
It goes forever.
This is interesting, man. Stop it.
This part
Okay.
takes a while.
Pause real quick. So whenever he first does that, it's funny because he's making a silly voice. So he gets a little bit of a laugh. But then he keeps doing it. for far too long, and then people start cheering.
Yeah.
Which, once again, that's voluntary.
Right.
They decided, like, oh, let's give it up to him because this is cool. We like it.
He's going forever on it.
And then he stops, and he does it again, and then he gets a laugh because
Yeah.
people are like, oh, he's got to be done with it. He's been doing this shit forever.
The end of this right here, I noticed it on the first time. He's going to do like one last beep.
Oh, yeah.
And he looks up because he's expecting a
Expecting to
big
get a
pop
pop.
right there, and he gets nothing
Doesn't
for
get
it.
it.
That's good.
Shorthand.
For people who know what shorthand is.
Beep. Now, I
Nothing.
told you that story.
Dude, oh, look at dude. He wiped his forehead, dude. He's
When I
like,
was 17 years old, I was arrested for being drunk in public.
I like this right here because there's a timestamp here. We're 4 minutes into his 5.5 minute bit. And he says, I told you that story to tell you another story, which is horseshit. The main story is the getting thrown out of a bar part.
Right.
This is the part that is the filler, but he had to reorganize. I guarantee you when he first started writing this, he started by telling that bit as I got arrested for drunk in public in Texas. I told him I was tater salad. Then I got thrown out. I guarantee you he started with the other way around first time around.
I don't know.
And then he decided that he was going to go back and do the New York story first and then say, I told you that story to tell you this story.
And something I've noticed about stories too, it's like people who tell stories have been doing it for a long time because unlike a bit, you can shave the fat and you can punch things up pretty quickly. But a story seems like it takes a long time to season and get right.
Yeah.
Be a pattern. If you knew Morse code, you would already know that.
Little callback.
And one DWI, which was a bogus charge because it turns out they were stopping every vehicle traveling down that particular sidewalk. And that's profiling.
That is textbook. That's just your textbook
believe.
joke right there.
Yeah.
He's got a story, but he puts a joke in there. It's
Yeah.
like false expectations. It's like, all right, what's the setup? He goes, one DWI charge was bogus. Okay, why was it bogus? He goes, because they were stopping every car on that, and you assume he's going to say road or street, and he says sidewalk.
A little bit of a bait and
Boom,
switch.
yeah, bait and switch. So it's
Then he throws two tags on there.
yeah.
I do think that like I like looking at the whole thing, like the whole story, and seeing what part. Like that part right there. I bet you that was a joke beforehand that like he had and didn't have a place for it, and he's like, "Oh, I'll put it in
Punch
that
out
and
my
just
joke, yeah.
throw it on the end."
Because that's the problem with stories. Stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And a lot of
Yeah.
times people are waiting for the end. So he's like, I need some jokes. I need some laughs. I'm going a long time without somebody laughing. So let me throw some jokes in here.
Right.
So that's why he's like, let me take this joke from elsewhere and put it right here because I've got a lull right here.
Yeah.
Because that's just a standard setup, punchline, tag joke.
All right.
And the drunken public charge and Fritz, the arresting officer, who I had literally known all my life. You know what I mean? This guy lived 4 doors down from me in a town of less than 400 people. We've met.
You ever notice some people
takes
say, you know what I mean, or you know?
Yeah.
It's almost like they don't have faith in the bit.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he had that great pause and timing. He's like, who have lived, you know what I mean?
Who I have literally known all my life. There's like a big pause right there.
I think he was expecting a pop there and didn't get it. So he goes, you know what I mean? And then he's like, oh, I think when something you'll notice a lot when comics aren't hitting the punchlines they expect or getting the laughs they expect, they start speaking quicker to get to the next punch.
That seems fair. I have a couple of places where I say, you know what I mean in my stuff. Some of it's written because for the same reason that I think he did it right here. It might not be because he's losing his joke or he doesn't have faith in it, but it's if I'm going to repeat something in a different way, I feel like I need a clarifier in there that's like, here's why I'm not just going to say it twice.
Right.
Like, I've literally known him all my life. I feel like if you go right into it, it's like, you know what I mean? We grew up like,
Yeah.
Here's another way for me to say what I just said. That's why I do it. I think that's why he did it right there.
To jail. When we get there, he asked me if I have any aliases, and I was just being a smart ass and said, yeah, they call me Tater Salad.
Now, first question, do you think this is a true story? Do you think he actually got arrested and told somebody he was tater salad?
I feel like most stories, like, because it's like the thing about comic stories, like if you're going to make something up, why wouldn't it be so fucking fantastical that it was
that's
like,
true.
like, yeah, they call it, I got arrested on Blowjob Island,
Yeah.
It's a pretty mundane story. So I think it probably is a real tame story that has that he probably did say that. He probably did say, yeah, they call me Tater Salad. And then he's just punched it up and exaggerated and made it this giant hyperbolic fucking awesome story that we know today.
My question is, do you think he workshopped tater salad? Do you think he went through some other things before he came up with tater salad, or do you think that's the true story?
No, I think it was tater salad. I mean, it's a funny word, but I think if he was going to say something like, yeah, they call me, I mean, maybe. I feel like it's tater salad's like, to me, that's the only thing that seems genuine, and the other stuff is probably swapped a little bit.
But is that because that's how you know the bit? Is that because it's become synonymous with the bit in your head? That's a question I'm asking myself.
No, because it's like the other stuff seems like it could change, like location, time, and place. I feel like the only thing that's like consistent in all the versions I've heard.
It's the best. That's the thing the joke's known for. But if he had said they call me, chocolate pudding, in that position right there, we would all know this joke is chocolate pudding.
Right.
Is it synonymous with it just because that's how we heard it? Or do you think, my question is, do you think he actually told a cop his name was Tater Salad? Or is it something that he went through a list of other food items before he came up with?
That's something that's funny too, because like it's obvious it's a story. He probably told it to a bunch of people before he ever decided to bring it on stage.
Right.
But like, yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm like, is this something he sat down, pen and paper, and like tater salad, tater casserole, whatever the hell, chicken salad?
Well, he also, throughout his act, calls back to that a ton. Like he does it right at the end of this too. He goes, I call my son Tater Tot. And then there's another joke later on the Blue Collar set. I don't know if he does it on this one here or not, but where he's talking about his bulldog. He said he likes to hide M&Ms and shit in his jowls, so that when he wakes up, he's got a nice little treat to wake up with. He's like, I love watching him because he'll be like, gonna be a good day, Tater. Like his dog calls him Tater in his mind or whatever. So he keeps calling back to it. Maybe he really did do that in his whole life. That's what I'm saying. Like the
only thing that seems legitimate to me is the tater salad. Everything
How great is it that that's such a funny word too? Yeah, like tater salad is like great. Like if he said, anything else, it wouldn't have been as funny.
But also if it wasn't for that, anybody that's grown up in the South, like that's just what it is. It's tater salad.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, okay, that's just a dish that shows up at funerals,
Right. I love tater salad, though.
Me too.
There it is.
17 years later in New York City, I'm handcuffed on a bench with blood coming out of my nose. This cop goes, are you Ron Tater Salad White? You caught me. You caught the tater.
Tater.
You can take down those roadblocks now. I call my son Tater Tot. And Poot.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. It's a great joke.
It's such a good joke. And he's so well known for it. Like, I think at some point I'd love to have a bit where it's like, it's like my bit. Like, you've got a ton of them. We'll go over a bunch of them, like Ron White with Tater Salad and Burt Kreischer with the machine and like things like that. Like I sometimes think like it'd be cool to get to that point where I'm super known for a bit, but then at the same time, you're going to have to do it every time you're on stage. Like I guarantee you, I know Burt Kreischer still does it because I've seen it. He still ends most of his shows with the machine. Like I guarantee you, Ron still does Tater Salad. It's like at some point, do you get tired of getting getting laughs for the same joke? Or is it still just as good a laugh as any?
I guess it's like the whole, like musicians saying like they don't want to play their hits. I'm like, yeah, but that's what people came for.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, yep. I guess what's better about this than playing a song that people have heard over and over and over, like you're telling a story. Like this is a story that's real to him at least, so he gets to tell a story. Like how many times have you been out in public and someone's like, oh, hey man, tell that story about that time we did this. And you're like, okay. And it's never like, no, I don't want to tell it. I've told it too much. Right, yeah, it's like, I can't wait.
Because
like that's what's cool about that too. Unlike a song, like it is a piece of you.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So you get to tell something that's unique to you. No one else has got that. No one else has been handcuffed and had the tater salad thing. Because that's something that I learned like from the instructor of our comedy class, the owner of the club. Whenever I was going to go up and I was opening for a traveling comedian, I'm like, all right, well, what should I do? And he goes, well, I like this one bit you've got that's a story about, growing up in a trailer.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it's kind of a unique story that's unique to me. Not many kids had this experience.
Right.
And I was like, I don't like that story because I don't want to paint myself into that corner. I don't want to be, love Ron White, but I don't want to go with an accent and just ham up and play to the bass, So he's like, yeah, but the thing is like nobody else has that story. Because if you go up and do a bit about porn, or you go up and do a bit about what you look like, he goes, people have touched on that. He goes, I guarantee you nobody has touched on that story that you have because it's unique to you.
That's true.
So that's what's cool about stories. Unlike certain bits, is like it's not something that
no one else is. There's not going to be any parallel.
There's
thinking.
There's no parallel thinking to something that specific,
which is something we'll touch on at another point. Parallel thinking versus joke stealing.
Yeah, I think this went on a little bit. Well, I think we did all right for the first one.
Yeah, I think that was enough rambling. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed, and it's something that you want to continue watching. Make sure to subscribe and do all of that jazz. But we'll be doing a new bit breakdown on famous comedians, famous bits. So if that's what you're here for, well, we're going to be doing that every episode. And I think we'll just keep talking about what it means to us and let you in on as we go on. We'll be doing some more stuff about like the sets we've done and what it's like to go to an open mic and what our club's like and what other clubs are like as we go check out other clubs and stuff. So
yeah, so what's on the horizon for us is we've got a comedy competition coming up. So we're going to see if we can win some money for this. We've got some opening gigs coming up. We've got a bunch of open mics coming up, and we're wanting to travel and go to other clubs and just kind of see if what we're doing now works just because of home field advantage, or if it's something that's actually fun when we get out there. So if you are here because you want to follow along with the journey and see how we're doing, see how a couple aspiring comedians can try to level up and go to something greater than where they started, stay tuned for that.
I've actually got my first set at a new club the day after tomorrow.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it'll be the first time that's the first time I'll be going to a different club than the one that I cut my teeth on. I feel so dirty talking about it like we're these seasoned, rusty old road vets. When it's like, yeah, I've been on stage like a couple times.
Yeah, but
that's the point of this whole thing is
because we wanted to find other people who are going through it, and they're like, fuck it, we're going through it. So if you guys want to see what it's like, how better to learn than us? We're the crash test dummies out here. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna show you what it's like going through the open mics, what we've learned. Hopefully, we'll be able to bring on some cool comedians who are more seasoned to talk about their experience. But overall, that's what we hope this podcast is gonna be. It's gonna be a space where we talk about comedy, we talk about our journey as trying to become comedians and everything in between. So
while breaking down professional comedians and having hopefully some professional guests.
Yeah, because now we've got some insight on it. As you've seen, we've been able to learn some tips and tricks. So if that's what you're here for, cool.
So we're going to be doing these things once a week. We'll try to get them put up the same day every week so you guys get a little bit of consistency.
And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you aren't already, leave a comment down below what you'd like to see us touch on, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.